Though Darkest Dungeon 2 is out and I've been playing it for about 8 hours, and I have some thoughts and feelings on it, and I thought we'd just share and discuss and maybe overlap a few experiences. So I know it's an early access, but I still want to share some of the good things that I've experienced and some of the not so good. And if you too have been playing it, then I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. So I just want to say, in terms of the graphical upgrades, it looks absolutely gorgeous. They've kept that kind of similar cell shaded two-tone kind of look. It almost feels like a 3D comic book like effect, and it works really well for them. It's dark, it's gloomy, it's got all the forebodingness that the first one had, and I absolutely love it. First thing that really hit me in terms of how everything worked was the fact that this has changed from kind of like a management-esque roguelike to just a pure roguelike game. You start off, you choose your party, and then you choose routes based on the next level that you select. And I gotta say, I really do like this approach because I absolutely love Slay the Spire. They've obviously learnt some lessons from the roguelikes that have come out since Darkest Dungeon did its first release. And instead of running around in a big grid that I did find at times a little bit tedious, this time round you are just to say going straight path, then selecting where you want to go, and all the decisions just kind of roll one after another from there. So the other thing that I really noticed from the first game, there are a lot less characters that you select from. I'm not the most hardcore Darkest Dungeon player, but I think it's gone down from like 19 to 9. And the other thing that really stood out to me was the fact that everything now is a little bit more cookie cutter. So previously, when you used to have the carriage arrive, there could be a whole menagerie of different characters that you select, and then you made your parties from there. Now you choose your parties, and that's it for the whole journey until you basically die and restart your whole run. Now on one hand, I like this because I like the roguelike element. On the other hand, I do really miss the fact that you had the carriage arrive, you had a whole menagerie of different characters in there, and then you picked them and made your squads from there. Aside the random traits, there was also that whole randomability of what hero you got, and that just isn't there anymore. Now the Darkest Dungeon devs have come out and said that this isn't the same game, but I can't help but making some comparisons, because in my mind's eye this is a sequel, and am I expected to go back and play the first game that I presume won't get any updates going forward just to get, the experience that I once enjoyed? And one of the other things that I really liked about the original was the fact that there was this whole ecosystem underneath the random runs that you were also doing. So you'd be upgrading your armory and your blacksmith, and there was all the, the medical side and the mental health and the pub and all these different management things that, tied in together. Because of the way the first one was set up, there was almost like this story-like elements that you could attach to characters, and you did get attached to characters and you rooted for them, and you'd always hope that they survive, or you would escape and keep them alive and get them with other characters from different parties. It created this really beautiful like sandbox system. Anyway, long story short, you now have your characters that you start off and you progress, and you've got it all replaced with this new wagon. Now when it first started off, I really liked the wagon system, and I thought, oh, this looked really cool and it's pretty, and you've got the torch on the back of it. But after playing it for an hour, the wagon got really old. It just felt like a mechanic that was there to basically increase the time between fights. And while at first I was trying to go through every single piece of rubble on the road to get all the items that I could, afterwards it just became pure tedium, and aside choosing what route I wanted to go to, I was just holding the forward button hoping that I would get to the next fight. And even though there are items that you can put on your cart to upgrade them, and you can increase the capacity and look at the map and see different elements that you couldn't before, it's just really not that interesting. There's not like that many decisions that you can do around your cart, like choose to upgrade its wheels or something, or give it something else that will buff your characters in some different way. Now that's not to say that it won't come, but it certainly isn't in the game at the moment. Now in terms of combat that we touched on, I really like the combat now. The animations do look so slick, and they're super smooth, and they feel really fun. They've got, elements of like the animation wind up, and then your, traditional Darkest Dungeon 1 static images that come up and show you what action that they've taken. They've also introduced a new relationship system between the characters, and they are really fun, and there's lots of great little quips, etc., and toing and froing, and how it impacts the stress of each of the characters and the whole party overall. But I've got to also say, sometimes it just gets a little bit too overloaded with the whole status messages, saying that, oh, I'm praising you, or I'm hating you, or how dare you not heal me, or how dare you not give me that buff. And I also got to say about this whole system, I know Darkest Dungeon does not set you up to win in any way whatsoever, but in terms of like balancing the relationship between players, you definitely can't win. For example, you can heal one character and then the other will say, how dare you pay more attention to him, and then you buff him, and then another will say, oh, how come you're not then buffing me, and then you finally get a kill, and then someone else will moan that you've stolen the glory for them. Honestly, it feels like you're managing teenagers sometimes more than you are actually these stone-clad gritty warriors. The other thing that I want to comment on is the distance between each runs, and then adding in combat. It is really, really long. That I swear, I must go back and time it, but I feel like the Darkest Dungeon runs were a lot shorter than they are compared to Darkest Dungeon 2. And for me, that is a pretty big negative, because for me, Darkest Dungeon has always been about being able to pick it up, do a little bit here, and then get on and do, my daily family life. And I don't like games that really kind of delay or waste my time just for the sake of doing it. And I think there are multiple elements to that. I've already mentioned the fact that the stagecoach, it takes absolutely ages for you to get to the inn to then spend all of your items. Additionally, sanity seems to be really, really easy to just lose in this game. And if you're meticulously balancing it, it really just adds a lot of extra time into the combat. I also feel like I'm scratching my head a lot of the time. They seem to give you a huge amount of items that you can use at the inn. There are combat items which I found to be super, super important, and you're always, throwing them into the mix. The game just seems to give you an abundance of inn items, and the leagues are, they take a considerable amount of time to do. So I found myself just ending up hoarding battle items, and then towards the end of the run, when I got about 20 leagues away, that's when I started collecting the inn items and then making the choice whether or not I'll use them. Going back to combat though, again, I absolutely love all the different enemies and the backgrounds and the different biomes. I have noticed that some biomes feel like they've received more love than other. The fiery burning down one was really, really good. However, the area with like loads of flesh just felt like it was a little bit rushed at the moment. But the quality and the animations and just how it all looks is just absolutely brilliant. They almost feel like they've been ripped out of a Dark Horse comic. It's so good. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on the game at the moment. I am doing runs of it and, enjoying my experiences, but I feel like there were some things that just had to be said. Now, the big question is, would I have bought the game if I knew what I knew now? And I got to say, if I hadn't played Darkest Dungeon 1, then my answer would be no, I would have waited and left it. But I have the utmost faith in this team that they are going to do a fantastic job. They are one of the few companies that actually committed to the early access model and really did deliver on it. So I don't doubt that it will all be fleshed out and we'll see new things and changes and balances tweaked all over the place, but we'll just have to enjoy it through an iterative process at the moment. And to be honest, the game isn't that expensive. It's only $20 at the moment, so it is well worth a pickup, I guess. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm not the most experienced Darkest Dungeon players, so I would like to hear from people who are much more hardcore in the genre. But for now, I'll see you all soon. I'll post some more videos when I play this, and I hope you all have a great week and speak to you soon.